And we are live, everyone. Welcome, everyone, to a special Saturday edition live stream of Knocked Conscious on a 1 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Arizona time, and I believe 7 p.m. Nigeria time. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, 7 p.m. Nigeria time.
We have a special guest. I showered and I even wore my special church sweatpants for this episode, ladies and gentlemen. So I'd like to welcome, without further ado, Econ Bro to the Not Conscious family. Welcome, Econ Bro. How are you?
I'm doing well, Mark. Thank you very much for having me on. It's a real pleasure to be here and share my story. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much for the people who connected us through X. I will admit it's had a couple little had a little ruffles here the last couple weeks, but this is an amazing technology that we are speaking halfway across the world and we're able to share these stories
Yeah,
and we connected so instantaneously through people we don't even know. And this is a
yeah, yeah,
beautiful thing. So
yeah. It really is.
everyone is 6 degrees. So, well, welcome. So, what I'd like to do, I know very little bit about you, and I have had not much time to prepare. I've actually had a lot of podcasts these past couple weeks, but what I'd love for you to share is who is Econ Bro? I'd love the origin story of the little boy who grew up and what culture you grew up and how it was, and then where you realized where you went the direction you did. So, I'd love for you to start at any point you like, and if I have questions in between, I'm happy to jump in.
Okay. Okay. Great. So I'm Econ Bro. That's my internet name. It's not my actual name. Um, I use a pseudonym because of my country. I'm Nigerian. I live here. I was born here. I have been outside the country, but um, pretty much most of my life I've lived here in Nigeria. So people here are very they have no respect for privacy. It's not like you don't have people in the West who have. Um, there are people in the West who do not respect privacy, but it's sort of taboo to dox someone or to expose someone. But we don't have those conventions here. It's perfectly normal, even from people you would expect to know better. Um, it's not any different um, with them. They don't have any problems with doxing people, so that's why I use a pseudonym for this. So as I said, I'm
So is this similar to like say East Germany where it was a 2-to-1 spy to citizen ratio? So
oh no
basically,
no
your
no
citizen is basically your like everyone's against you here to dox you, or is it just certain people that are out to get you? Is it a cultural thing or?
it's not how it was in East Germany, but it's a cultural thing here. How do I say this? There are certain values that you Westerners take for granted, like the right to privacy. There's no such thing here. There's no such thing here, and people don't have respect for, how do I say this? People don't have the respect for dissenting opinions here. So if you have an opinion that differs from um, some other person's opinion, they hate you and sometimes want to do you harm just because of what you said on Twitter or some other online medium that someone disagrees with, right? So they think the best thing to do is to hurt you. They go look for your employer or that kind of stuff. So
Right. Because they can't
there's
attack
no,
the idea. They can't
yeah,
attack the idea, so they attack the person, right? It's like it
yeah.
starts with character assassination, right? They call you names and then they take it further. Okay.
Only,
So
only,
that's what
only.
yeah.
Let me just jump in there. It's actually much
Yeah.
worse because even when they can attack the idea, people still want to hurt you. So they can attack your idea successfully and still want to hurt you. So people are,
So they want to eliminate, completely destroy the
yeah,
idea.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh no, 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 not just the idea. I mean, there
Right.
are
But I mean,
certain,
the person holding the idea, everything. They want to
yeah, yeah,
completely dismantle the entire thing,
yes,
the
yes,
source, everything. They want to just eradicate it because it's
yeah.
just not in line with them.
Um,
Wow.
just, just so you understand what I'm saying. There are certain things that I could say here that people would want me dead. That's what I mean. So it's not just I lose my job. There are certain people who would harm me if they could. So yeah. So just to, so
Well,
yeah.
we'll be as safe as we can with that. So we'll be as
Oh no, it's
private as
fine.
we
It's
can.
fine. It's fine. If there's anything I can't say, I'll tell you that. But you can feel free to ask absolutely anything. Yeah. So that's why I use
Absolutely.
a pseudonym. That's why I use a the name Econ Bro. There are people online who know my real name. Both people I met here and people in real life that I interact with on social media. So it's not like it's some big secret. Initially, when I started doing what I would get into that momentarily. When I began doing this, I I wasn't even showing my face at the time. That's how scared I was of being out there. But now my face is pretty much everywhere, at least in certain circles, and I'm not so interested in hiding my identity. So I hold on to the name now because people know me as Econ Bro.
The
So
notoriety.
yeah,
Yeah. There's like a kind of branding with it for sure.
yeah,
I love the name. So it works out
yeah.
great.
Okay. So yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
So,
so,
this is the beginning of your story. Like I said, you start out as a child, and how did you come to become Econ Bro? How did you become this thing, this entity that is has these ideas that are contrary to a lot of the ideas in your country?
um, so I'm Christian. I like to tell people that upfront. I'm in my 9 to 5. I am a minister of the gospel. That's what I do. So I grew up in a Christian home. I had a brief period where I lost my faith. I don't want to call myself an atheist, but I was more agnostic. And then anyway, just to cut a long story short, sometime
I don't think that needs to be cut short. I'd love to hear how you found that. I mean, this is the growth. This is how you became yourself. And I think losing your faith and finding it again, I think that's a fascinating story if you're interested in sharing any of that. I myself
okay,
I'm actually an anti-theist. So it's a
okay.
long story of how that works, but it's a little different than atheist, a little different than it's a very unique thing. But I'd love to hear your story if you're willing to share that part of it, because I think it's fascinating because many people have faith. I think that's a beautiful thing.
Oh yeah, okay. Okay. So I'd like to know what anti-theist is. I don't know what that is, so I'm
So
curious.
I had personal experiences. I share on a podcast. I'm actually going on a podcast tomorrow, but basically, I had a near-death experience at 13,
Mm.
and I've had psychic experiences since I was 40 years old. They just turned on, and I've had things happen, visions, and they've come true. Now, I I'm a lucid individual, so I come from science. I come from logic. I don't understand it. What I also know is that humans didn't get it right. So theism to me is the institutionalization of the faith in a way, in a
Mhm.
general broad sense, because it's theism, right? It's still a human concept. I don't know what it is, but I don't think humans have it correct. So when I say I'm anti-theist, I just am not in tune with the way we translate, or at
Oh,
least the people, the middle people, the pastors and the people translate it, because they might not have all the information. For example,
oh,
some texts in the Catholic Church, right? Christianity, those are not we're not akin to those papers or those
mhm.
books, right? So there's a lot of information there that I just don't think the general people, us, have all of the information to that context. So
Okay,
I admire the faith though, because I think the faith is a direct connection piece. It doesn't, it's beautiful to have people who pastors and people who can help share the message. But
okay,
a lot of people use that person as a replacement, like a middle person, as like a
yeah.
conduit to get to God. And I don't think that's how that would work. But we
Okay,
all
so
have different opinions, right?
just to be sure I understand what you mean, you believe in the supernatural, you just don't believe in organized religion.
I can
Is
tell
that
you I've had personal experiences that would make me think I have opinions about it. It's not the way we interpret God. It's
okay?
different,
Okay,
I
okay,
think. Yeah.
okay,
Yeah, it's
okay,
just different. But there is a spirituality to it, an energy, right? Something to it, right? There's
okay,
something
okay,
that we
okay.
can sense.
By the way, I too have had lots of spiritual experiences, tied to my Christian faith. I don't like to go into this stuff publicly, but I've had visions. I too have seen things that have come to pass, and all that. So it's
If you ever want
relatable.
to talk about it, we can do a separate podcast. So I'm happy to share it because I think it's beautiful that we like I said, this was hit. The reason I call my show Knocked Conscious is because it was a vision that I had during a meditation, my first ever meditation, and it literally was like a 2x4 across the head, it was like a baseball bat. So,
Yeah.
but this is about you, sir, please. So
Okay.
you're
Okay.
a pastor in your on your as your full time in your other
E-
life, right? Okay.
yeah. 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 My main life. So anyway, so because of my Christianity, because of my faith, um, one thing led to I can't really. It would take. It's not like I don't want to go into the details, but it would take forever to do that. And I just want to talk about the Econ Bro stuff. So I'll just gloss over much of. Anyway, so being a Christian, I I was very into Christian apologetics, and then that led me to certain people in the U.S. William Lane Craig, Frank Turek, David Wood, John Lennox. Lots of
I've
people in the
probably
West.
watched every William Lane Craig debate on theism.
Yeah,
I probably
I
watched
probably have. I
50
probably have
hours
as
of
well. Yeah. So so following those people, you tend to meet certain other people who are not as religious, but they are okay. Let me just put it this way: one thing led to another. People that um, apologetics rabbit hole eventually led me to political conservatism. Um, I I don't want to break down how that happened because there are certain names I don't want to mention for my own safety. So anyway, so those that eventually led me to political conservatism, and then I was um, I was a fan of Ben Shapiro, and maybe not so much Ben Shapiro, but Stephen Crowder.
I
So
was.
basically, sorry.
I was a fan of Ben Shapiro.
Yeah, even when I was a political conservative, I always had my reservations. I just never
Yeah, I agree.
I loved his stuff, but I just never
Right.
connected with him personally. I was
Well,
more a
what
Stephen.
I liked about it was he was on the downside when the speech was, but now he's on the top side and he's calling everyone else anti-Semitic and wants to suppress
Yeah,
speech. It's
yeah, that's
completely
ridiculous.
hypocritical, and it's
Yeah.
a 180 degrees. It's what made him famous is what he's using to try to suppress others. It's completely disgusting to me. I find it appalling.
To be honest, I sort of picked up on that when I first encountered Ben Shapiro in 2015 or so. So I'm not surprised to see what he's turning into. So I'm not surprised. Anyway, so I was a big fan of Stephen Crowder. I don't know if you know who that is. Very big
Yes,
fan.
very much louder with
Yeah.
Crowder.
Yeah. So I never missed an episode of his show. I loved. I still. I'm no longer. I no longer consider myself conservative, but I still love Stephen Crowder. I say this that Stephen Crowder actually saved my life. I would. I hope I get to meet him one day and talk about what meeting him did for me. He was meetings. I used to have these thoughts. I had these ideas, and being Nigerian, I knew no one who thought like I did, right? So people just thought I was crazy. And then all of a sudden, I met this man who was speaking my thoughts. I had no idea what I believed was called conservatism at the time. I had no idea. So it was meeting. So I say he saved my life because I had um, unpleasant thoughts. I felt so alone and all that. So all of a sudden, I'm online one day, and then I see this man who thinks like I do. So yeah. So I love the man. Anyway, so even
Well,
though I
hold on.
disagree.
Before we continue,
Okay.
sir, anyone out there, I know I only show about 14 people watching, but this is the internet, everybody. We've got beautiful technology. People know people. If anyone knows anyone who knows Steven Crowder, can we get Econ Bro added here? Can we get him? Can we get an attachment here somewhere on X? Connect these two people. All right. So that's a beautiful thing when you say that, because I too, that's what sent me to a therapist at 40 because I felt similar to the way you felt, this loneliness. I felt alone. So it's beautiful that you found a voice that spoke in alignment or in parallel or in harmony
Yeah.
with yours. Right? May not be 100%, but at least it was harmonious. Like you interacted well. So this then connected you to this movement in a way.
Yeah, so because of that, I became a conservative, and I was a super MAGA. I live all the way in. I'm sure you know this. Um, America dictates the tone for the entire world. So when you guys have elections there, it's like the World Cup. It's like the, I guess for you guys it'd be the Super Bowl. It's like a
You guys
global.
really care that much about what we do?
Everyone cares. Everyone cares about America.
I'm shocked.
Yeah, everyone cares about America. So during people, people are. I mean, just the last election, last U.S. elections, I wasn't as invested as I was in previous elections. Libertarianism tends to do that to people, but people actually right. People fought each other here because of over Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. That's how. I mean, in Nigeria, people. Anyway, so that's how it is. So I was very
That's
invested.
amazing. That's
Yeah,
amazing to
yeah,
me. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and if I may, I was a grade A neocon.
No,
I'm 50 years old. So when I enlisted at 17 in 1992, I enlisted. I didn't get in, or 1989, I enlisted at 17. I didn't get in. I failed the physical and the last doctor because I had a bad car accident, my near death experience. Duh.
oh wow.
So, but I was all about the Iraq, WMDs, weapons, the nukes, everything. Saddam must go. Gaddafi bad. Let's bomb him. Let's get him out. And once that cracked, it just spiraled away. And I voted elephant, I voted Republican every president since 92, since H.W. Bush. I voted NOTA this time, none of the above. My
Yeah,
first time, even Trump, I voted twice. But this libertarianism that you speak of, my fever broke. And I
yeah,
said, I used a John Stossel. I find it encourages them. Right now, I voted on direct propositions, anything that affected me directly in the
yeah,
in the local magistrate or the
yeah,
local
yeah,
things, but on the federal, I stepped away from that for the first time.
yeah.
So I
Very,
understand.
relatable. So as I was saying, um, so because of Crowder, I got to meet Ben Shapiro, Alex Jones, Prager University, Dennis Prager, all those people. So I was a proper conservative, and to cut a long story short, I sort of got tired of the I saw again I saw a lot of hypocrisy in the conservative movement, and things weren't really adding up. Okay, so let me back up a bit. At university I studied economics, so that's what I studied at university, and what they teach you in university is just it's regular Keynesian neoclassical economics. It's just not
Yeah, can you
basically it's
share a little bit what that means? Because when
okay.
we talk Keynesian and obviously we've got Rothbard, we've got Mises, we've got
Yes,
all
yeah,
these names. Keynesian is the current system that we're kind of operating under. Is that the
yeah,
correct way to
yes,
explain
yes.
it? Now, how is money valued in that system in a general broad sense compared to how it would be maybe in one of the other systems?
When you say how is money valued, what exactly? I need to.
Well, like
It's a
The Keynesian, as the way they talk about how resources equal value, right? So we can just print off money, like there is no debt. Like, how does the Keynesian mindset infect the rest of the policies in that? You know what I
so
mean?
I'm not entirely sure, but let me just explain what Keynesianism is,
Please,
and then I would
yes,
apply it to
please.
money
That's
and
please do.
I'll apply it to money and markets. So basically, Keynesianism is just the economics of government, right? We free marketeers, those of us who believe in the free market, we believe that individuals making economic decisions for themselves, working to satisfy, to meet their needs, is what is required for an economy to survive. And then the Keynesians, the neoclassicals, the pretty much anyone to the left of Milton Friedman believes that the market fails. They call it market failure, and the government has to intervene and sort out this or that problem. So, according to Keynesian economics, the government can do this using tools they call monetary and fiscal policy. So, fiscal policy just has to do with government spending and taxes. So, if they want to expand an economy, the government would spend, right, which is very dumb.
Right.
because the government has to
Right, because
tax
it creates an
first.
inflationary because they print money they don't have because it's not even gold backed because we have nothing we have nothing backing this anymore,
No, no,
in a
it's
real
no.
sense.
So I mean, even if there is something backing the money, in order for the government to spend, they have to tax the people first. Now, assuming the government chooses not to print any to print more money than, let's say, the gold that's backing it, assuming the government decides not to do that, they still have to tax the people to be able to spend that money.
Yeah.
And taxation, by definition, is contractionary fiscal policy.
Hmm.
So contraction, so it contracts, it shrinks the economy. So they shrink the economy, and then the let's say they raise $7 billion in taxes, and then they spend $7 billion in taxes. So that spending is expansionary fiscal policy, which is very stupid because you just took from one place 7 billion and
Right.
spent 7 billion elsewhere. So there's literally
Right, you
no
just you
expansion,
redistributed it. You didn't
just
do anything
redistributed.
with it.
Yeah, so
Right.
it's
You
so, by
didn't
the way,
yeah.
it's things like that that made me question what I was taught at university. I was like, this thing doesn't add up. So the Keynesians believe in fiscal and monetary policy, basically
Right,
just
so
the
they believe in
government.
the government they believe that the government can or they believe that external forces can manipulate the markets correctly. And that is a really
No, no,
ignorant and very hubris kind of statement to say, right? Like, because they don't know
let's
better.
let's be specific. Not external forces. They mean the government. I think
Government
it's,
forces, right? And I
yeah.
just want to say in general, I'm trying to be as broad as possible, but yes, in
Okay.
this case, government raises interest rate, they print money, they do this,
Yeah.
they do that, they manipulate all these markets and things like that. All the government
Yeah.
hires, for example, if we look at the U.S. unemployment rate, how many percent of that were government jobs to keep that number looking strong when we know that that number is collapsing
Oh
underneath?
yeah, yeah. Professor
Underneath.
Saint Onge. I don't know if you follow him. He
Yes,
does the.
yeah, he just started following Professor St.
Oh,
Onge. Yes,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
excellent.
Yeah, so he did a
Yeah,
video.
tell me about him. Yes, what
I
about him?
think it was last. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago. He did a short video explaining how the employment numbers under Biden were forged. It was everything was just a lie. Anyway,
Yeah.
so
And one of
moving on from.
what was interesting was the last quarter of 2021, if I'm not mistaken. I don't want to speak out of turn, but I believe it was. We were off by 1 million jobs. 1 million misreported, overreported jobs. So it's been this smoke and mirror show. They've been having a very dull pencil for a long time, you know.
I'm not surprised at all. I don't take government statistics seriously. Even recently, I've been debating with people in my country about things like GDP and CPI and how those are very worthless measures. And I don't understand why economists pay them any mind. And when I mean economists, I mean people on our side of things. Because if you strip them down to what they actually are, they really serve no purpose but to manipulate, to make things, to misrepresent things in favor of the government. Anyway,
Absolutely.
lest we turn this into an economics lecture, let me return back to my story. So,
By the way, it's going to do that, sir. We're just bouncing
oh, it's fine.
around, so we're just
Yeah, it's
following the
fine.
flow of a conversation. It's a
Okay,
pleasure meeting
okay.
you. Like I said, we just met, hit record, and started. Right? It's like
Yeah,
we're getting
yeah,
to know each other. So
yeah, yeah. So eventually, so being a political conservative, of course, you can't know those people without knowing Thomas Sowell, Lawrence White, George Selgin of Cato, Milton Friedman. So I knew all those people. I was familiar with some of their works. I had read Milton Friedman. I had read Lawrence White, Thomas Sowell. So I was very familiar with free market economics, which was F.A. Hayek as well, which was liberating for me because I had finished university. I had finished learning nonsense in university, and then I came out and I found out that there was more to economics than what I was taught in school. So, okay,
even in the
how?
vacuum of school, where they basically indoctrinate you into their way of
Yeah,
thinking. Is that what you mean?
yeah. I found out it was just. I mean, when I was in school, I always had problems with my lecturers, my professors, because I would always ask questions and then they would not be able to answer them. And at the time, I thought it was because the my professors were unintelligent or they didn't know enough. So what I told myself after um, school, after my bachelor's, I'm going to apply to Caltech. But I wanted to learn from the best schools in the world, one of the best schools in the world. And at the time, Caltech ranked number 6 for economics. So I wanted to um, go to Caltech. Unfortunately, I couldn't afford the tuition, and I just said, "Yeah, I'm going to learn online, right? Because all the information is pretty much out there." First thing I found was that, so I wanted to do my master's and then my PhD. First thing I found was the problem wasn't with my professors in this part of the world. The problem was what I was taught, because the questions I had when I looked elsewhere, when I looked to the West, the questions still weren't answered. So one thing led to another. And of course, having love for Crowder and all these people eventually led me to Thomas Sowell, F.A. Hayek, Milton Friedman, and all these guys. So,
Yeah.
um, so this was what sort of introduced me to free markets, libertarian economics, and then the questions I had at school that no one was able to answer, I got answers to them from free markets economists, right? So,
Except for what about my roads?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
I'm just
exactly.
kidding.
No, no, you, you said that in jest,
I'm
but it's
just
actually true, because I wasn't an anarchist at the time, so I believed that we needed the state for at least roads and security and all that.
Yep,
So yes, you're
infrastructure,
actually,
right?
yeah,
Bridges,
you're
roads.
actually, yeah, yeah.
Me too.
So
Please share that because I relate exactly that. Share that story, please.
yeah, so uh, it was in. So I had heard of libertarians as early as 2016, I think, and everything I heard about libertarians, should I say, they are caricatures of what I've come to believe libertarianism to be. So when I would hear, there was this video I watched a couple of years ago. By this time, I had already started to get tired of the whole conservative movements, of the hypocrisy. But I watched a video where Alex Jones and Stephen Crowder were talking. This must have been in 2019 or so. They were talking about how Alex Jones was talking about why he's no longer a libertarian. I Lauren Southern. I'm sure you know who she is. She's a
Mhm.
mutual on Twitter. That's like one of my greatest
Lauren
achievements.
Southern did the did that gun the 2A gun documentary with Tim Pool, correct? Lauren Southern and
I
John Dutoit,
I don't
I
know
think.
if she. I know she
I'm
did
pretty certain
Farmland
Lauren
TV.
Southern. Yes, I'm pretty
Oh,
certain. Yeah, yeah. I'll share that with you because there was a really interesting documentary on that.
okay. So
Guns. So
so she used to make fun of libertarians back then. I don't know where she stands now. Um, Anyway, so in my mind at the time, I thought libertarians were just conservatives who wanted to smoke weed, and that's just what I didn't know the
it,
difference. I thought
it
they
might
were,
be, sir. I'm not sure. I'm
I
not
thought,
certain about that.
I thought they were godless. I just thought they were godless conservatives. That's what I thought. I didn't really know much about and every time I would see someone talk about anarcho-capitalism, it would be some um, dismissive, those people are crazy kind of argument. So
The boot on
what,
head guy, the guy who's naked, right? Like it's the
yeah,
guy who's just out there, lives in the woods all on his own, right? Like chopping
yeah.
wood. I'm with you.
So one day I decided, let me give these libertarians a shot, right? And Spike Cohen, Dave Smith, and Larry Sharp were on the Patrick Bet David podcast, and
I met
I was
Larry Sharp this summer. It was an honor meeting that
oh,
man.
he had me on one of his shows. On his show, he was one of
That's
the first to
great.
ever have me on. It was really nice. So
He is an amazing man.
he is,
Served his
he is.
country too.
He is. So watching that podcast, the three men were talking about libertarianism, and in my mind, I was like, everything they're saying, I agree with. These are things I believe, right? So they don't sound so crazy to me. So and I remember the turning point for me was when the host Patrick Bedavid asked Dave Smith, "What do you libertarians have against someone like Milton Friedman?" And then Dave Smith said that he doesn't have anything with against Milton Friedman. He loves Milton Friedman, but he's more of a Rothbardian. That was the turning point for me. So I was like, Rothbardian, what the hell is that? So I looked it up, and then I found out it's a political philosophy um, that is affiliated with some Mary Rothbard guy. So I didn't like him at first, but then I started reading his books,
Isn't it
and
beautiful how this journey happens? You first of all, what I love is you are just a curious mind, clearly,
yeah,
because in order to be able to not be programmed the way 90% of us are programmed, you were given information and you're like, something, let me ask one question, and just that first question already had a little hiccup in you that you already knew that you need to dig deeper. So you
yeah,
go down rabbit hole after
hmm,
rabbit hole, and it's like music, right? For thought, right? It's like,
yeah,
oh my gosh, I got a new artist, boom boom boom, oh, someone mentioned
yeah,
Rothbard,
yeah,
it's like, oh my
yeah,
gosh, I got to pick that out, and then you start reading and soul, and then this
yeah,
comes out and that comes,
yeah,
and it's just, I just love how I love that, because I want you to share that part of that, because most of us go through life not understanding that the curiosity is the beauty part. This is where we learn,
yeah.
and how you followed that. So basically, your Dave Smith mentions I'm a Rothbardian, and you're like, what's this Rothbard thing?
Mhm.
Basically, right? So then
Yeah,
tell me about that. Yeah. So
yeah.
so let's go from there.
So I looked him up, and then I watched a couple of his videos. I wasn't he's not he doesn't have the kind of voice that I find interesting. So I didn't really enjoy him when I listened to him back then. Now I love to listen to Rothbard, right? So I mean, I wish he lived longer so I could
An
listen.
acquired
To him.
maybe taste
Yeah.
sometimes.
So then I started to read his books, and my mind was blown. Everything just made sense when I read Rothbard. Everything made sense. Of course, I read Mises and Hans Hermann Hoppe and Joseph Salerno and pretty much Dr. Bob Murphy, who I love. I adore the man. I've also been on his show as well. So I've read pretty
Oh,
much
that's
all the
great.
guys. Yeah, I've read pretty much all the guys in the Mises Institute. I've read pretty much everything they
And I know you
written.
mentioned Hazlitt, which is the one that
Oh
really,
yeah,
really was a good one for me, because it's short. I can listen to it during walks, and it
yeah.
really was just easy to digest. Probably one of the best intro books to economics that you've ever
It is. It
heard.
is. It is. I think it's the best. I always recommend it to people. It's always my the first, the case against the Fed, and then economics in one lesson. That's usually how it goes for me. So how I even got to know Henry Hazlitt was I was talking to Hannah Cox on. This was when I was still curious about what this libertarianism thing was about, and then I asked her if what text would she recommend for me if I want to understand libertarian economics? And then she said Henry Hazlitt and Bastiat, The Law and Economics in One Lesson. And then, of course, those two were eye-opening moments for me as well. So that's pretty much how I got into this. And then I decided, knowing, being confident that this is the solution, I decided I was going to introduce this to people in my country, and that was how Econ Bro was born. So I started the Twitter account, and then I started to, tweet out to people on, just talk to. Unfortunately, because of the nature of my tweets, the bulk of my audience, I can confidently say 90% of my followers are from the West, or at least not Nigerians. You know, I face very strong opposition in Nigeria. I think there are only about 20 people in Nigeria who agree with the things I say on Twitter, right? So,
Do
um,
they put restrictions in the country for that? Do you need like a VPN? Do they put
no,
any
we
restrictions like?
with our previous presidents, we needed VPNs to use Twitter, but the new guy came in and all that was. I mean, the new guy is much worse than the previous guy, but at least we have Twitter. So
Wow. So,
it's
well,
not all
yeah, I'd
bad.
love to hear that. It's fun. It's interesting. Once again,
Oh, we're
it,
getting there.
it, and this is what's crazy, right? We talk about ideology. You talk about like being Republican or a Democrat or whatever. It's like you just said, this guy's much worse, but he did an awesome thing. Yeah. So why are we concerned about the guy? Why aren't we concerned about the idea? It's an awesome thing. Let's use that awesome thing and let's not do the awful stuff. Like
Yeah,
why can't we do that? You know?
I don't know. I have no idea.
It's crazy. Because
So
it sounds great
the
that he opens this up, but he closes some. He's worse in other ways, right? And I'm sure you're going to get into that because,
yeah
yeah.
yeah.
So
So So I started to talk to people on Twitter, and then it occurred to me that this Twitter thing isn't really working out because I just kept racking up followers from the West. So I decided to do something else. I decided to literally go out and talk to people about these ideas. So the what I call the Nigeria Liberty Project was born after that. So I got some money.
Is that a
Um,
website? Is there a website for that
and no, not yet. It's just a
or anything?
fundraiser. Yeah,
Okay.
I'll send you the link. You can check it out.
Yes, absolutely. I just want to. I try to share it as much as possible, just in case people
Okay.
are listening in,
Yeah, sure.
catching in and out. So please, yeah.
So I started to write articles on Substack, and then I went out to I had some money, um, and then I about $1,286, $1,286, $76 was I'm converting from the local currency to, so it was about $1,286 $76. So I got that money and I went to the university in one of the states here. I spoke to the it's a government school, so they have like student associations, and I called the president of the Economic Student Association and spoke with him about these um, about free market economics, right? And his mind was blown. Contrary to mainstream economics that's full of charts and complexities, um, Austrian economics specifically is logical. It's just you can just use speech to
It
explain it.
is
You don't
reason,
need
and it
it's
does
reason.
work. I'm sorry, it's
It really does.
reasonable. It's just
Yes,
reasonable. I
it
don't know
makes a
another
lot
way.
of sense. It makes a lot
Right.
of sense. So
Right.
um I spoke to him about it and told him to assemble students for me. So I paid and I rented a hall, a venue, got speakers, paid for food, video coverage, audio, everything. Invited them, all expense paid. Right? No one paid a dime. Some students who couldn't even afford transport. To transport themselves to the venue, I paid their transport to the venue. So that's how all my events are. And I sat down, and they
Right.
sat down. My first event, I had about 50 young people, and then for 4 hours, I spoke to them about the Austrian monetary theory, and their minds were blown. Right, so their minds were blown.
It now was it the same thing? Because this is what we have. It's called in America. I know it's called cognitive dissonance.
Yeah,
So
we have
you're
that here.
hearing it and you're nodding, right? And all of a sudden you freeze
Yeah,
and your eyes start like fluttering and your head literally like splits in two and you break. And then you come out the other side and you're like, whoa, what just happened? And then like
yeah,
everything just kind of clicks, right?
yeah. So
I mean, how
speaking
many
with
students were in this first group that
50,
you just
fif-
30?
about 50,
50?
50,
Wow,
yeah,
that's great.
50. Yeah.
Okay.
So
So they
um,
started some kind of club in this in the school
yeah,
then?
so we have groups where we have discussions and all that. So some of the students there told their friends um, in another university in another state, all the way very far away from the um, where I hosted the first one. And then those guys were like, "Hey, could you come talk to us about this thing you spoke to those guys about?" And I was like, "Fine." This was a year later, by the way. So this second event had about 175 to 100 people. We had children as young as 12, 13 year olds, children at the second one. And so I was able to raise some more money through my fundraisers, and I was actually able to. So the Mises Institute gave me permission to print the books. So I got permission, and then so I printed Murray Rothbard's The Case Against the Fed and Anatomy of the State. And then there's a very interesting man called Zach Rofer. He has this great book called Busting Myths About the State and the Libertarian Alternative. Very, very brilliant libertarian work. So he too contacted me and said he loves what I'm doing. He sent me some of his books. He gave me some money. You know, so I gave those three books out at the second. The second event was just second major event. I've had smaller events after, but I'm talking like major events. So I had the second major event and gave out free books. and spoke to even more people, added them to the network that I'm building where we talk online. And then just in September, I had a third major event that must have had about maybe 300 people in attendance, um, about 300 people in attendance. And then,
No.
just talking to them about the ideas, sharing the books, discussing with them. I've run out of funds, but I hope I don't care. I'm still going to, even if it's just online, even if it's just on Twitter, even if it's writing articles, I'm still going to keep doing this. Hopefully, I'll be able to raise more money. I'm just hoping. I'm hoping that maybe someday I'll just meet some libertarian billionaire who says, I want to fund this work, and then just give me support to do this. I would love to do this literally every month, every month. In my initial plan was to go from state to state, but then I thought that's not really productive. I would just focus on teaching one or two states. Maybe when I'm done with them in a year, I can move to another place, and then those guys, I can empower them to move to other places. So, but
Right. It
it's
becomes a
been,
coaching tree. It
yeah,
really does become a
yeah.
coaching tree. I mean, I would assume you have something like that in your ministry where you might have some people who are kind of understudies in a way that look up to you, admire you, and maybe want you to follow in your footsteps. And
Well,
you
my
may
church
apply
is in,
that in an economic sense, right?
yeah, yeah.
That's all I mean. Like, you
Oh,
transfer
okay,
the
okay.
same passion
Oh, okay,
in a
okay.
different idea, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Because of my Christian ministry work, uh, I already know how to speak to people. I already have that zeal to spread um, things that I've learned that are useful. So my goal is to within in 10 to 15 years, maybe 20, to change this place. It's going very slowly. If I have the resources, I know my people, I know myself. If I have the resources, I can change this country in 5 years, no doubt. I know my people, I know Nigerians, I know them, right? So, but I just don't have the
I
resources.
can tell you though, because you have that passion. And I think that you can feel that. And I would understand in your culture that would be very much revered. And
Yeah.
I think people would really pick up and grab onto that passion and that energy. I think it would. So let's
So,
help you here. This is the point. So everyone who knows myself, I'm still a nobody as well, but I've spoken with a number of people. I don't know if you've been on Spike Cohen's podcast or if you've ever spoken with Spike
no,
Cohen.
I
We'll get
haven't.
you. Okay, we'll get you in touch with him. Let's get you in touch with. We've got Drop the Mask Pod. That's my friend Jason. I do a weekly podcast with him now. We need to get you on Libertarian Christian Institute. Jacob Weinograd. I think you might even know who he is.
Yeah, I know we're
We can get you
friends.
connected with him.
Yeah,
Excellent. And then also Buds, right? Sean Collins.
I've
We've
been on
got
boards. I've been on
Infinite
boards.
Zeal. Right,
Yeah,
exactly. So
those are
let's
all my
grow this,
homeboys.
guys.
Yeah.
So we got 20 people on right now that are live, which is amazing on a Saturday, to be honest, because you could be doing so many more better things than listening to me live and listening. Econ Bro, I want to listen to live, but not me. But that said, let's get some people going. We'll have that link and let's see if we can get you exposure. Let's get your voice going. I'm happy to share this feed with you. This isn't about me. This is about you sharing a message. So any of these messages, you can have any of the recordings or anything to use as you need for any of this stuff. So let's help Econ Bro out. Let's follow him, share, repost any of his stuff. He's brilliant,
If,
brilliant, and he's
please,
doing a great thing in a very, very far away land. Amazing.
if
I love it.
if I've really been trying to reach Spike Cohen and Dave Smith. So Dave Smith follows me, right? After my first event, so because the Mises Institute, we have a relationship. So I've been on two of their shows. I've been in two of their publications. So um, so once I did one of my events and they saw how successful it was, they retweeted it, and Dave Smith's name was in the tweet because I spoke about how he introduced me to libertarianism, and then he liked and he was like, cool, and he followed, right? But that was the last I ever heard from him. Spike Cohen, I've never heard anything from him, but I would really love to meet those two guys. I would really love to
I will tell you. Okay,
discuss
so
with
this
them.
is the beautiful thing about this. I was very fortunate. I went to Freedom Fest in Las Vegas this summer. So I had
Yeah.
the pleasure of meeting Larry Sharp, Maj Touré, Spike Cohen, Adam Coleman. Then the list goes on. Thomas Massey.
Hmm.
I met I watched RFK speak. We watched Angela. I saw Angela McCardle.
Mm.
Everyone was there. I met them all. It was an amazing experience. I was very blessed. They granted me media coverage, and I'm a nobody, so I was just absolutely just blown away that they were so kind and gracious. Coming out of that, before Freedom Fest, I was able to have Spike on my podcast.
Oh,
I've never met him before. And he was just kind. He was super kind to come on, the kindest man I've ever met. Because when I went to Freedom Fest, he saw me and made a beeline for me, like he knew me forever. And I will tell you, if you've never felt that from someone who you admire or look up to, it's really hard to explain, but like my heart burst. Like he was like coming to talk to me. You know what I mean? Like that's the character of Spike Cohen. So I will do everything in my power to connect you. I'll do what I can.
that would be
We've
wonderful.
we've touched base, but Spike is amazing, man. I think you'd have amazing thing. Now, the beautiful thing about Spike, which I think you find interesting, I don't know if you follow him recently, he just found
Faith.
faith.
Yeah.
He just
Yeah. Oh,
so
I follow him. I follow
perhaps that
him.
would be
Yeah,
right. That would be an amazing conversation for you two to have, and then transition it to the other to your portion of it. So
that would be
I'm
wonderful.
happy to help facilitate that. Once again, I am a nobody, but I will do what I can for you, sir, because
Thank you.
this the message
I
is all that
really,
matters.
I really appreciate that. I believe what I was going to say before you brought this up. I believe the message would do well in my country because um, things are very horrible here. Things are terrible. I don't know if you want me to scar you and your audience, but I could tell some very
I do.
interesting.
I
Okay.
don't, but I do. It's one of
Okay.
these. I think everyone's probably told you this. Okay, so let's be honest. There's a lot of things going on across the world what has been posted on X that are videos of some really bad atrocities.
Yeah.
And I'll admit, I see them as I scroll through or something, but I do not watch them. I cannot
Mm,
stomach it. I'm sorry, it's just not in my nature. So
mm.
that, but the thing is, it exists, and I know it
Exists.
exists. So I know it's there. So I, please share stories. I can handle it. The audience, we have to hear these things because what I heard on one of your other podcasts, it's unbelievable. So I'm going to hit mute and please share how these things that are going on in your country.
Well, so things are very horrible economically here. Um, Nigeria has always been a poor country. Everyone knows that. But since about 2015, when the last president came in, things were bad before he came in, but he made things specifically worse because he, more than any president before him, he very greatly inflated the currency. And um, there's this economist called Jörg Guido Hulsmann of the Mises Institute. He wrote this book called um, the How Inflation Destroys Civilization. It's a small it's like an essay, small book. I don't know if you've read it yet. So Saifuddin Amus of the Bitcoin Standard podcast, they talk about other consequences of inflation, non-economic consequences of inflation. People think inflation is just people can't spend and people can't afford things anymore, but it gets much deeper. I mean, there is one of Guido's students, Professor Jeffrey Degner, also of the Mises Institute. I love to shout him out because he has been very good to me. He also wrote a dissertation on how inflation affects the family. I don't know if I'm at liberty to share that with people, but let me just leave that. So inflation actually does more than destroy um, people's financial wealth. So nothing causes poverty faster than inflation. And nothing causes poverty. So you have $100 in your pocket, and $100 can buy you, I'm just maybe 100 loaves of bread. And then you wake up one morning and $100 can only buy you 2 loaves of bread, right? So you have the same amount of money in nominal terms, but you are much poorer. And of course, this happens because the government devalues the currency by increasing its supply, right? So, um, when our president increased the money supply, he did it slowly, and then all of a sudden in 2020, the year everybody decided to run mad, he just hit the printers really, really hard. And then since that time, the currency. So let me just compare it to the dollar. So the the Nigerian naira, the naira is our local currency here. It used to be if you have $1, you could trade that for 400 Nigerian naira. It wasn't like that before. It was 200 before he became president, but he made it a dollar to 400, right? And then all of a sudden, when he turned on the printers, it went from a dollar to 400 to a dollar to 750 thereabout, and it has been on the decline as we speak. It's currently about a dollar to 1,700, right? So that tells you how.
Oh, so it
And
doubled and now it's
yeah,
quadruple that number.
yeah. Now, please note, the dollar is also losing its value, right? So
Yeah,
it's not like the
it's
dollar.
about 3% of its original value from way back in the day if we look at the real true numbers. But
Yeah, yeah, but I mean from 2020 to this day, the dollar has lost value, despite the fact that the dollar is falling. One would expect that as the dollar falls,
right,
the naira. Let's assume the naira stays in one place, right? So things are beginning to,
right.
right. But
So you're
the
saying
as
even though the dollar's falling, which is the relative term, it's still falling
the
at
naira is still
more
falling
than the
much
dollar's
faster.
falling.
Exactly. So
Right.
imagine
So
how
it's
poor
just an accelerated. It's gaining
crash.
distance. The
Yeah.
gap is growing in between.
Yes. So people woke up overnight and became dirt poor. So that led people to do, and we are human beings. When people can't meet their needs, they tend to do horrible things. They tend to do anything to meet their needs. They become almost animalistic. It brings out the base, nothing brings out humans, the base um, nature of man than hunger, than lack. And all of a sudden, you see there is an increase in kidnappings in the country, kidnapping for ransom, right? And then um, there, everyone knows Nigerians for internet scams, right? So that has also gone on the increase. Prostitution is at an
Are you
all-time
that
high.
lost prince? Are you the guy? Have you been emailing me for the
I
last
have,
30 years, sir?
I have.
Has it been you?
That's me.
No wonder you're econ bro. I get
Yes.
it. You're really the prince guy. I
But
see.
all jokes aside, I am actually royalty in my country. I am a prince. It doesn't mean anything, but I'm a, I'm like maybe 17th in line to be king. If so lots of people have to die or give up the throne for me. So I am actually a prince. So anyway, so people woke up
Don't say
overnight and
that because if something happens, man, they're going to come back to this podcast and be like, he said it. 17
yeah, but
people had to die for me to get this spot. Now these
I,
people are gone.
I don't even I don't even want the position, and because it involves a lot of voodoo nonsense. But let's not get into that now. Anyway, so which we will eventually get into. So prostitution became like prostitution became normal in the country. Pretty much, lots of ladies sell themselves out just to have something to eat. It's really destroying the culture. It's destroying families, and what's even worse. So there's being an African country. There is still a lot of darkness here. People still believe in the old gods, right? In voodoo, that kind of nonsense. Where if you sacrifice a virgin, you would get a certain amount of money. People still do that stuff here. Like people still, you have children killing and murdering their friends. I mean children, 13, 10 years old, murdering some other 10-year-old girl because some witch doctor told them if they do that they would become rich. So you have those types of things that used to happen in the 80s in Nigeria, right? The 80s were a very hard time for us economically, but then things started to pick up towards the 90s and then the 2000s. But then, so, and with the increase in economic prosperity from let's say 99 to the mid 2000s thereabout, all those things faded into obscurity. You would hardly hear about people killing, making human sacrifices. You would hear of those things, by the way, in the fringe. But now they've made a very, very frightening resurgence. These things have come back, and the country is in shambles. The country is in shambles.
Yeah.
Last year, we had a new president who was supposed to make everything right. I knew he wasn't. He's a proper inflationist. So there's nothing he can do to solve our problems. As a matter of fact, the problems, the policies, the reforms he has implemented are, I know as an economist that they are only going to make things much worse than they currently are. So Nigerians need to brace for impact. Things are going to get much worse. I made a prediction last year to some of the students that businesses were going to begin shutting down just by using an analysis of the Austrian business cycle theory, just by using that, applying it to the Nigerian economic context. And it wasn't even, it's been like what, a year and 6 months since I made that prediction, maybe more than that. And all the many businesses have shut down as I predicted was going to happen. And I predict that it's going to get even worse. So this is why, or part of why I do what I do. This country is dying, and no one is going to save, no one is going to save this country. There is this, there are a couple of political candidates, people who are rather aspirants, who are looking to run for the next election. Every single one of them is a Keynesian, or a Keynesian at best, or they're just straight up socialists. So there is no, there is no sign of relief on the horizon, which is why someone has to do, someone has to stand up and do something, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing. If I make enough noise, if I teach enough people, make enough noise, if I'm on Joe Rogan's podcast tomorrow, right? If I'm on Rogan, because that's like
Hey,
an
I'm trying to get
express.
on there too, sir. If it's you or me, I'm sorry, man. I'm
Oh no, no, no,
I'm
it's fine.
getting in. It
Maybe,
won't be. Trust me, you'll
may,
be there well before I will.
maybe when you get in there, you could put in a good word for your boy.
Oh,
You
if
know?
I ever do, I will absolutely. I'm here to lift all ships, my friend. This is what this is all about. It is about the message. But please continue. Yeah, please continue, please.
So I'm trying to. So here are my goals. I want to inform as many people as possible, which is why I go teaching young people. I mean, sometimes I go shopping at the local markets here, right? And then people are complaining about our goods are so expensive. Why are you hiking prices? And then I stop. I kid you not, in the market, and you need to see our markets here. They're not like um, supermarkets. They are. I guess you guys would call it a flea market. It's just people in stalls selling all kinds of fruits and vegetables and everything and meat
Yeah, it's like
that
an
can make
outdoor, like we call it a farmer's market, I guess is
farmers
a good
market.
way to
Yes,
call it.
yes,
Something
yes.
like that,
Only,
like an outdoor.
yeah, only
But
really
no, you
gross.
don't have any pangolins though, right? You don't have any
No, no,
bats or
no, no, no. We
pangolins
don't
or
have.
anything, I
No, we
hope.
don't. We have dogs and we have dogs and monkeys, but
But they're
not
not from
pangolins.
Wuhan. As long as they're not
No,
from
no, no,
Wuhan, we're okay.
no,
Okay, I
no,
just want to make sure.
no. So we are going to get cancelled for this, but who cares? Anyway, so 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 sometimes in the market, I stop people and then I start lectures in the market, talking to them. This is why prices are the way they are now. Don't blame the man selling this to you. And then I start to explain. And again, seeing as it's Austrian economics, it's very easy to explain. So everybody understands that. They're like, and then they calm down, you know. So I want to keep informing as many people as possible. That's one, because if I can raise an informed um, if I can, if we can have just a critical mass of, I don't know what that number is. It could be 500,000. It could be 100,000. It could be a million people who know what works. They don't have to be economists. They just need to understand the basic concept that more intervention means more poverty and less intervention means more prosperity. They just need to learn that. That's all I need them to know. So that when these lying politicians come out and say we are going to build spaceships, free trips to Mars for everyone, and all these lofty promises they make, these people know that this is a lie, and then they stand up and say, "Oga, Oga is like the local word for sir here. Like Oga, we are not doing. That is what I want. I want people to wake up and say, sir, this will not work. If we are going to vote for you, you have to promise to cut down the size of the government. And if you don't cut down the size of the government, let me not say what's going to happen after, because I literally could get arrested for that. So that's one
Well, that's
side.
the thing is, See, I see a lot of uprisings in our country as well, and noticing that something's going to happen isn't calling for it to happen.
But
Like
the people here don't.
I see the tensions increase, right? That things can snap if they don't, right? You're just that's all you're saying. You're just observing that there's a reaction to whatever is going on.
Yeah,
In the
but they don't see it. They don't see it like that here.
uh,
People here don't see it like
well,
that.
I'm
They
saying it
see,
that way, so they can
yeah,
come to my house.
yeah, right.
Welcome to come to my
So,
house, please.
um,
So I love. So
so
if I may, for example, this is some. I had Ariella Moskowitz of decriminalized sex work. Okay, she works now. Prostitution, you're a libertarian, shouldn't be illegal. Sex work shouldn't be illegal, but it does determine the health of the state, right? Like to know that this is on the rampant uprise, it's telling you that something's wrong, something's in the civilization's not healthy, whether it's financial or whether it's cultural, right? So when we see an uprise in crime, an uprise in these negative things, it's an effect of the things.
yeah,
It's not the start, it's not the
mhm,
cause of
yeah,
it. This is the back end result. And all we're trying to do is those none of these things generally should be illegal to do these things that are kind of deviant. Obviously, the ones that hurt others directly, right?
yeah,
That are non-consensual. But if the state was healthier, this wouldn't be as much of an issue. Is that kind of
yeah,
what you're saying? Because the state would be
yeah,
healthier.
yeah, yeah. It really is that simple. So, my second goal is to try and get on as many shows as possible. It could be shows here in Nigeria, it could be shows there in the West, which is why I keep taking these interviews. And the reason for that is this: number one, I get to spread the word about what I'm doing and hopefully raise funds to continue doing the other work. And number two, uh, as I said, this place is very unsafe. Reporters are picked up and they are disappeared here like it's nothing, you know. And not to sound like I'm not trying to make it seem like I'm absolutely nobody, right? But
You are
there,
you are a messenger on this thing. Look, you're a messenger of Christ in your life as well. So
yeah,
this is how you are. This is your purpose. So
uh,
as a messenger, as the vessel of the message, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You have to follow this path because this is where it's led you.
yeah.
You know.
What I'm saying is, even the harshest critics of the government, their message, the message they preach, is not as much a threat to the state as my message. My message literally is the most dangerous message to the state. They may not realize it now, but it really is, because the critics of the government are calling for better government. I'm calling for little to no government. So I'm a much bigger threat to the establishment that is the state
Right,
than
because we're
most
talking
people are.
about defanging the government. We want to take away its power because there's no good and bad here. Good and bad is totally subjective. There is no objective. I mean, there's objective reality, but subjectively within the confines that we're talking about making policy and things, the good of one is the bad of another. And when if you push this way, the next person is just going to pull it the other
Yeah,
way. And that's
yeah,
ridiculous. We want to take the power away so no one can
yeah,
even push or pull it. That's what we just want to
exactly.
step back and let it
Exactly.
be.
And they do not want to
Yeah.
hear that. Nobody has time for that
No,
message
because
here.
they will
So,
lose jobs. I mean, if the
yeah,
state shrinks,
exactly.
everyone's jobs are. We have homelessness in
Exactly.
America, six figure salaries, and they solve homelessness by not solving homelessness, so they keep their six
Exactly.
figure salaries, and then they
It's
double the salary or double the size of the number of people that get six figure salary.
it's the same here, only much poorer. It's the same here.
Yeah.
So if someone comes out and is talking about how you need to shrink the state, he's or she is endangering that person is endangering his life, right? So my goal, as I said, second goal is to get on as many shows as possible, because if I'm seen on Rogan, it's very it will be difficult to disappear me, right? People would ask, where is that guy that was on Rogan, right? So that's the reason why I do these second reason why I do these shows.
I would
So
recommend you for Rogan, but he specifically has a policy that he actually gets cringy when people recommend other people to him.
Mm.
Like if I were to email him as a third party and say, I came across Econ Bro and you need to have him on, he would actually feel worse about it because someone talked to him about it. He wants to find it organically. So if somehow we can slide into his DMs through maybe Dave Smith, Dave Smith is going to be your conduit, I think. And I think you can get to him because
I really
Dave's
hope
brilliant. Dave is
I really
absolutely
hope I
brilliant.
can. I really hope I can for
Robbie
more
the
than one
Fire,
reason.
maybe get through Robbie the Fire and get on his show as well. Let's
Who?
see what we
Oh,
can do.
okay. The guy
See.
with him, the guy who does a show with him, right?
Yeah, the guy with
Oh yeah,
Dave. Yeah.
you know him.
Yeah. So let's
I,
spread
I,
your message, my friend. That's what we're here
I'm
for.
saying, do you know Robbie? You know Robbie? Are you
No, I
friends with
don't
him?
know him. I just know
Oh,
him through the show, but I'll
okay.
happily message. I mean, I'll message anyone. That's what we're here for.
So yeah, so those are my goals. Teach people, um, make as many appearances as possible with the goal of raising funds to teach even more people, and protecting myself from being snatched. A lot of people, now let me say this: a lot of people have offered me, including um, some of our mutual friends. They've offered me asylum. They've said, leave that place, come stay in the US. We would sponsor you. Come to the UK, right? But who's going to clean up this mess here? Who's going to clean up this mess? So
Yeah.
it's not like I have a messiah complex or anything, but I just
No,
can't
no,
help it. I can't help
no.
it. I
Well,
have
look,
to be here.
right. Your life has a Christian element to it, and that's a good way to live a life. No one can take that away from how to live one's life. No one should step in the way of that. With that life, you're a pastor. So clearly in a purpose way from this perspective from a religious perspective, God has gifted you with this thing to be able to share information in a way that people would be engaged with and listen to and find a way to make it happen. And that's all it is. I don't see a messiah complex. I don't see you dying on a hill. You're just stating this is where I'm the path that has led me to this place. And the more we can even see it from that, the better it's going to be for everyone, because it's not like it isn't a divine thing. This is just, once again, this is reason. It just happens to be that you are the messenger in this case.
Yeah, so in a nutshell, that is my story, and that's how I began, and how I why I do what I do, and what I hope to do in the future. Yeah. So if you have
Yeah,
any
beautiful
questions
thing.
for me,
I don't have general questions, but it sounds like, is there a political career for you, or are you looking to be the person as a messenger behind a politician? Like, would it be better for you to have the message, be the messenger in this larger sense, and then endorse individuals, or is the presidency something that you might be compelled or forced into in your purpose?
I have no interest in getting involved in politics. I don't. I have thought about it, right? But I don't have the stomach for it. I
Right.
don't want to.
Yeah.
I don't want to rule over other people. Please, not now.
Right.
So
So would you look to find someone that may be like a Javier Malayan kind of thing? It looks like he's made some changes in Argentina, right?
I hope
Uh,
to raise the Malay a Malay in this country. I want to be the
okay. So that's
ideological.
where you would be, like you'd endorse that someone of
Yeah.
that ilk,
Yes.
of that ideology, general ideology.
Yes.
How
Yes.
hard is it to become a Nigerian? Can I become can I run for president if I'm naturalized? I'll be right
I
down there.
it, it I don't know what the law says. I don't know what the law says,
I'm just
but
kidding. I'm just
I know, I know. But I mean, who would want to become a Nigerian?
yeah.
Anyway, I
Yeah,
don't know
I
what
know.
the law says, but I don't think the people would be comfortable with a
Yeah, I would
foreigner
understand. Oh,
president.
100%. That's a total invasion. That would be an
Mm,
absolute invasion if I were to
mm,
come down there. But this sounds great. So, like I said, this is your time. I think it's absolutely beautiful. We've got 20 people have listened pretty much constantly throughout this on a
wonderful.
Saturday afternoon. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Thank you
I
for
am
having me.
so glad to connect you with whoever I can. We've mentioned Spike Cohen. Anybody who knows Spike, anybody who knows Adam Coleman, anybody who knows Maj Toure, anybody who knows any of these people, Larry Sharp, we know all these people. Let's get connected with you. We want to spread this message.
Please, I sent you the in the private chat the link to the fundraiser. It explains what I do, and if anyone is feeling generous, they could just tip $5, $10, 2 billion. It's all good. Everything is anything and everything is accepted. And if you want,
That is beautiful. I'm
if
going to
they
put it in
want
the
to,
main comments as well
yeah,
here
if
as
they want
well.
to
Hold on
send
one second.
cryptocurrency or anything, um, that's fine as well. Give them my I could give them my cryptocurrency wallet addresses, whatever is anything to make this happen.
Well, we have you at Econ Bro, Breau on X. Obviously,
Yeah.
we are following you. The people I know are following you. The people I know that know you are following you. So let's just build this community out a little bit, and we'll just start connecting with people. That'd be a beautiful thing. Do you have any message, anything that's on your mind that you want to share? Any story, anything? This is your time, and I'm so grateful for it. I'm so thankful that you could join me today.
Thank you. I just want to make one final appeal. Um, if my cause resonates with you, if you appreciate the kind of work that I do, I would really appreciate your support. You could support by um, donating, by introducing me to someone who has a show that I could talk to. I could seek for more donations by sending me books, um, anything that could help, by giving me advice, by following me on Twitter, any way you feel you could support this cause. I believe it will be very helpful. um, I don't know where we all stand on religion, but thank you and God bless you in advance. That's all I have to say.
Thank you very much. And I'll take any blessing from anyone because it's from the heart, right? Let's be regardless of whether you believe it or not, right? That has nothing to do with that. It's from one person to another. So
Yeah.
I'm so grateful for your time. Econ Bro, I know we're gonna talk offline at some point, but let's get connected. Spike, you're out there, buddy. My newfound friend. Let's get you guys talking. Larry Sharp, you talk with Larry, right? Let's get you
Yeah.
back on there. We'll connect some people. He was on Joe Rogan, so maybe we can
Oh yeah.
get some kind of connection there. So it was years ago. It was when he was running
Oh.
for governor. Yeah,
Oh. Okay.
many
Okay.
years ago. So
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. So there's a lot of great people. Let's see what we can do.
Thank
Thank
you
you
very much.
to everyone who tuned in. We had 20 people live. I will be putting this up on everything, on Rumble, everything. Econ Bros piecing out. Non-aggression is the way to go. Peace
Hmm.
equals prosperity, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes. Yes, it does.
War does not. We know this now. It took me forever to learn it, but I am grateful to have learned that lesson. Thank you again, sir. We're going to click off and then we'll talk offline.
Okay.
Thank you.